McDermott.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate your encouragement to wait till third reading, but the situation before us requires that I speak. First, I want to thank the Finance Chair for all of her hard work. She is a diligent professional. I know her team is a team of dedicated professionals, and they want nothing but the best for our students and our state. Mr. Speaker, I'm concerned about parts of the education budget here.
Excuse me, Speaker?
Yes, Representative.
Yeah, is the Speaker in support or in opposition?
Support, thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative.
Support
Thank you.
with grave reservations.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the majority body believes that this document should reflect a feeling that every student should have a first-class high school. And I want to say that right up front. Every student across this state should have a first-class high school, Mr. Speaker. And I know everyone in this body believes that. I know they do. But how do we get there, Mr. Speaker? How do we get to appropriating funds for certain projects? I think when it comes to children, these policies should be child-centered and student-based, based on hard data, enrollment figures, growth projections. How many seats do we have for the students, Mr. Speaker? How many seats do we have for kids? It would seem to me that the highest priority we have is ensuring that students have a place to sit. Mr. Speaker, you don't hear me down here talking about air conditioning anymore. We used to say that the classrooms at Campbell were like ovens. The problem now, Mr. Speaker, is we don't have enough ovens to put the kids in. So we've gone from cooling the ovens to now we just need ovens. Isn't that a sad state of affairs, Mr. Speaker? So my job here is to point out that the governor's budget had $31 million for a new building at Campbell High School. And we cut that to 15. Mr. Speaker, do you know how many kids are at Campbell High School today? Take a guess. 3,102 children. 3,102 children. Kapolei, which was built 14 years ago, is also overcrowded with 2,118 children. And their overcrowding is due to the Campbell kids getting geographical exceptions to go to their school. These two schools have over 5,000 students in them. Mr. Speaker, this needs to be addressed. So my job is to point out the need for fully funding the governor's $31 million request, which we cut in half, which is an urgent need. The governor put it in. Mr. Speaker, you may not know this, but the governor's not part of the Bob McDermott fan club. He put it in without discussing it with me. He put it in nonetheless. We cut it in half. We cut it into the amount that we provide for performing arts centers at other schools, which are nice to haves. This is exigent circumstances. This is an emergency situation. The parents are outraged. The community is outraged. The neighborhood board is outraged. But I can't blame the chair of finance, Mr. Speaker. I cannot blame her because I have to assume that the chair of finance is given the same information I am from the Department of Education. Now, I asked the Department of Education, not once, not twice, but 3 times, what is your #1 priority for a new high school? And each time I got a 2-page non-answer. 2-page non-answer. So apparently there is no priority for a new high school. Mr. Speaker, in this budget, we are building a new high school on your island, which is not needed. $37 million. Enrollment between Maui and Baldwin is going to go down in the next 3 years by 400 students, while the combined enrollment between Kapolei and Campbell goes up by 768. Who builds a new high school where it's not needed?
Speaker, I yield my time.
So ordered.
Who builds a new high school where it's not needed? Recess,
Members,
Speaker.
Members. Say, members, you're interrupting the speech, please. Members.
Wanted him to yield his time. He wanted him to yield his time. No, Bill. It's on the same bill. It's on the budget bill. He used all his time. I don't know. I mean, I think he wanted them to yield their time. They can't. But then he went to back to kind of like yell at them. I think because of minority caucus, he wanted them to help him. Speaker has to call. He's mad at his caucus because they're not supporting him. Well, it seems like so he's mad at his own caucus. Yeah. Or maybe they don't want to talk. Yeah. But the point is he's mad because they're not supporting him and giving them their time. That they're not yielding their time to him.
All right, the House will come to order, and I ask the members to respect each other, maintain decorum. You're representatives, you represent the people of the state of Hawaii. Okay. Representative Becky.
Mr. Speaker, I yield my time.
Okay. Go on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the point is we're allocating money for a high school that doesn't need to be built. The enrollment on Maui goes down by 400 students in the next 3 years, while the enrollment on Oahu, West Oahu, goes up by 769 students. This is akin to Castle High School having a roof leak, and we build a new high school in Molokai to solve the problem. It's not needed, Mr. Speaker. The proponents of this project cite a 1990 EIS that we don't do anything on 25-year-old EISs, and the other thing they cite is a 45-minute bus ride. Mr. Speaker, I had a 45-minute bus ride every day. Maui is a rural community as opposed to Oahu, so you can't compare Farrington High School to rural communities. You just can't do it. It's apples and oranges. 80% of our population here resides on 20% of our land. Mr. Speaker, the the terrible part about this is if we go ahead and build this high school, there will be no new high school in West Oahu for over a decade because we can't afford it. We are going to sentence a generation of kids on the west side to overcrowded classrooms, hot classrooms. By the way, Mr. Speaker, you know when you have 3,500 students in a classroom in a high school? The good news is we'll probably win every state championship. The bad news is when you field a team like a basketball team, you can only take 15 kids. There will be children who are good enough to start at any other high school who will be cut from extracurricular activities and lose that opportunity and experience to participate because we're not building the high school in West Oahu. The DOE knows that if we build this school in Maui, they're not going to have a chance to build the new high school within the next 10 years. That's why they don't even have a site selected. They have no priorities. They have no site selected. So then we're left to go by the whim of our political views and political muscle. This should be a child-centered, student-centered decision. You know, in this body we talk a lot about it's for the keiki, it's for the children, it's for the keiki. Where are all those people now about the keiki? I got a school with 3,000 children in it, going up to 3,500 in 3 years. These are DOE numbers, by the way, Mr. Speaker. They're from Colleen Matsumoto Information Specialist. So these aren't Bob McDermott numbers. Today, Campbell High School is at 3,102. In 3 years, it goes up to 3,545. Kapolei, 2,063, it goes up to 2,373. Now we're building high school in Maui to relieve Baldwin and Maui High. Their current enrollment is 1,408 and 1,849 respectively. They both drop down to about 1,400 in 3 years. Both will be under capacity. Now when you build this new high school there, you're now adding the burden, administrative cost and burden, to the Department of Education to run and maintain that new school. And you're pulling about 400 to 500 kids out of these other two schools, so you'll have about 3 schools with 900 students. Because of the student-weighted formula, those other schools will lose some programs, teachers, and extracurricular activities that they currently have. So you have 3 high schools with 900 students, and you'll have poor Campbell High School with 3,500 students. The assistant principal thinks it's going to be closer to 4,000. He's probably right, but I can only go by these projections. Now, I have a selfish interest why I'm pushing this, Mr. Speaker. That selfish interest is I have a sophomore there, and I have 2 more children in the queue. One's going to be a freshman next year, and then one a year after that. And they are going to be put into a campus with over 3,000 children. Where are the bleeding hearts who talk about the kids all the time? And I'm going to sit by silently and watch this travesty as we sentence a generation of students on the west side to overcrowded campuses that are criminally large in nature. The average high school is 1,468 across the United States from the National Coalition for Education Statistics.
Okay, please cut it off. This is the 3rd time I'm not allowing any time. So please summarize.
I haven't had a 3rd time.
Please summarize. I'm going to cut you short. This is the 3rd time.
Okay, so tomorrow, when the finance chair speaks, they get 10 minutes and 11 seconds, and that's it. Nobody else gets more than that.
Mr.
This is
Speaker,
baloney.
Mr. Speaker.
Will the House come to order? And Representative Thielen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield my time.
So ordered. Representative McDermott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I began to state, I'm very concerned about this, so much so that the lack of this in the budget that I talked to the governor's chief of staff. And I showed him the chart with the declining enrollment. Mr. Speaker, we run the risk of wasting a year here. And what I mean by that is it wasn't in the governor's budget. The governor has sold us that he is a methodical engineer who evaluates things based on need. If we appropriate this money, which by the way is $37 million, and that won't buy one classroom, one brick, one slab of mortar. That is only to level out this land, which is at a degree, about 20-degree angle. So what are we doing? The point here is, Mr. Speaker, is we're building a new high school where it's not needed. When we have exigent circumstances in West Oahu and we're throwing them a crumb, $15 million. Exigent circumstances, it's an emergency situation. And you know what? I'm the only one, I guess, who can read a chart, apparently, about enrollment figures. It's just a crisis situation. It needs to be resolved. And I'm here, not in a partisan fashion, I'm here for these children, for my kids, literally my kids, who go to this school, and the parents who are frustrated. And I can't go in good conscience and say, well, we're building a high school in Maui where they don't need one, Mr. Speaker. And with that, I'll save the balance of my remarks for third reading. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Representative.